Alright, greetings. Nasty rainy day out here, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Shouts out to Tim and Reggie Morgan, man. I did an interview with them, Let It Slide. For those that know, you know, it's an organization down here that's committed to try to stop all the violence. The slide part mean stop letting intense drama escalate, right? As you can see, is logic over vain emotions, right? Love. I know kisses and hugs, but love, teaching your children practical wisdom that's going to help guide them out of being just another emotional person who operates off impulse, egotistical, some might say. What needs to be said is the truth. Again, truth be told, you can't be in the spirit of truth without having integrity. That's all I'm going to keep saying when we go into these scriptures. It's going to be integrity is what I'm going to highlight. That's what being just means, right? If you justified by Christ, then you understand he was a just man through his integrity, right? So at some point, this is not about nothing in the past. It's about your present. If you're unable to be truthful, then you're not beneficial to yourself or nobody else. If your standard is that you accept lying to yourself, then you can only lie to others. Can't get nobody something you ain't got, all right? This is why we got to be looking at life and wondering, who else knows what we know? Who else can give us the understanding of life like we about to give everybody else the understanding of life? Who has practiced wisdom enough to get out of their egotistical self and understand that life is our guide? We were given logical instructions for existing. Only if you follow instructions will you be in your purpose. That's the truth. You can't vainly imagine, who you are trying to be when life brought you here for a purpose. Whatever instructions you've been given, that's what you have to follow. A tree can't be grass. Grass can't be a tree. Celestial can't be terrestrial. Spiritual can't be carnal. Now, it all starts in the same place: the grass, the man, the tree, dirt, right? But out of that ground comes different substances that's been instructed for a purpose. And as we look at ourselves, our purpose is to be, as they would say, extraterrestrial. Spiritual, because terrestrial is earthly, which is carnal, and we were given a sense of spirituality. Which is seen through maturity. To grow up is to have integrity. Children lie because they don't want to face the consequences of their actions. We've all done it. But at some point, you got to come to grips with being honest, accepting the consequences, dealing with your situation, and not trying to make something up that's more suitable to the way you feel. Because once again, this is not about how we feel. The purpose of life is to continue. How can life continue if it doesn't have any parental guidance? How can a child rear itself? It doesn't. So when we understand how these children aren't to be blamed more than the parents, need to explain the truth. Children come in mimicking what they see. To be a parent, you have to apparently have lessons stored in your mind that hold value to you and the people proceeding from you in order to guide y'all farther, farther, all right? Mentally and physically. Not being stagnated with what somebody else gave you as a standard or a system that you keep perpetuating because it's simple. People who have authority over people, you got to remember when others had authority over you. And to make a difference, there's no way we could simply behave like everybody else. Jolton. My bad. I'm gonna have to edit that out. But I'm just talking a little bit, running what I say. Like I say, shout out to the Let It Slide crew, the Morgan brothers, Tim and Reggie. You know, I met him through a partner of mine, Andre Haynes, another good brother. Good brother y'all might see me with, you know what I'm saying, occasionally here and there, you know what I mean? But, man, I'm trying to build a coalition. And the coalition that we're trying to build, and I say we because I know I'm not the only one. I think brothers with integrity want to deal with brothers with integrity. You know, word is bond. You dig? But our integrity got to be based on the spiritual aspect of life, right? We got to be honest with what we're presenting and who we are. And at some point, the way that we present ourselves may not necessarily be who we are. Not truthfully, right? We got people in organizations, and I got to bring this up. I do. Man, I can appreciate an organization like IUIC, right? Because as I've seen these other groups of people demonstrating with groups of numbers, I see y'all too, you know, and y'all mass demonstration down there in Mississippi, right? But, man, we don't need a bunch of niggas lying. Hey, I could respect that y'all all congregating together, but to come together and fight under a lie, I'm not with that. A man who fighting for something don't want to fight for a lie, because at the end of the day, your life is on the line, and why would you die for a lie? Why wouldn't you honestly tell the truth to save your life? Why wouldn't you honestly be truthful if that was going to save your life? And the way that y'all giving people the direction in these scriptures is misleading. Not just y'all though, right? Not to call out no particular group, but when we dive into these scriptures, man, I'm seeing lack of integrity all through the scriptures as people reading. When the scripture speaks of having integrity all through the reading. What do you think being upright is? Huh? To be upright is to stand on 2 feet if you were a baby, right? You've learned to gain your balance, and now you're no longer crawling around on all fours, which animals do as well. But you've learned to have a sense of integrity to stand upright. And the older you get, the more your stability is there, and you even forget that you didn't know how to walk, and you forget that you didn't know how to stand up, and that's just the evolution of life. But if you evolving physically, doesn't that also have to happen mentally? They say when I was a child, I thought like a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. So we talking about the thoughts now. We talking about the mental aspect. When you was a child, you was highly emotional or just emotionally driven, right? Impulsively driven. But as you got older and mature, the spirit of integrity, if you were initiated in integrity, right? If your people told you don't steal and don't lie, they were initiating you in having integrity, the spirit of integrity, and you can't be in the truth without integrity, right? So if you on that path, then as you continue to practice having this type of integrity, not lying or not stealing from nobody, then at some point, as you matured, you will put away childish things. Like you wouldn't even look to see if you can get away with things. If somebody left something around you, you ain't even thinking about stealing it, or somebody presents something to you of value, you're not thinking about taking it from them. Because you have become accustomed to operating in the spirit of integrity. And that spirit, again, is the key to being in the truth. The truth can't be built off of a lie. I don't care how many people you get to go along with the lie. The truth cannot be built off a lie. It's just a lie. And everybody going along with the lie until somebody shows up with the truth, and the truth has the ability to combat all lies. A lie can't stand in front of the truth. It doesn't have integrity. It can't erect itself. Matter of fact, it has to collapse under the pressure of the truth, because the truth has integrity, right? It's a solid structure. But when compared to a lie, the lie is flimsy at best. It's weak, right? It can't stand the test of time. I heard a man say, if you are in your God self, you remember yourself when who you was before. That's what he be doing, right? And I done made reference to this old man, and I say this here because at some point you're an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment. I didn't read in the scriptures that Moses had to do all of that. Moses did all of that. I don't remember Moses remembering he was nobody else other than himself. But he was made a god to Pharaoh, right? Which he was given instructions by life. And life told him to go tell this person this, which means he was giving others direction, right? G-O-D, God, right? So as Moses is made a god to Pharaoh, this not about remembering who you was, conjuring up some old things that you believe, right? It's about knowing who you are in this time and following the instructions that you've been given. This is why life, again, It's logical instructions for existence, all right, to exist. Love is practicing that logical instruction and placing it over your vain emotions, because you can imagine life however you choose, but life is operating a certain way. A room full of people who felt somebody left too soon ain't never brought that person back logically. All of that energy couldn't conjure up that person and make that dead body rekindle his spirit, right? So emotions can be very vain. Yeah. A whole crowd of people with all those emotions ain't gonna resurrect that dead body. So all of you men marching out there like for the IUIC and doing all of this for this Nolan Wells dude, hey, you not resurrecting the black community by doing all of these things. Matter of fact, you're driving a bigger wedge because you got some people believe, you got some people that don't. You got some people believe somebody else, some people that don't. We're being so divisive because we're all trying to give our explanation of life when life doesn't need an explanation. It needs understanding. All right. The knowledge of life is the knowledge of life. But who understands it? See, the one that understands this is the one that can identify the spiritual value outside of the carnal value, because we all can be wise to our own deceit. We can all be wise enough to recognize the patterns that we go through every day, and we become accustomed of what we do every day. But are we according to life? Are we operating according to the understanding of how life operates? Or are we creating our own life? One individual can't create life, no matter how you try to chalk it up. One group of people can't just create life, no matter how you chalk it up. The concept of life is its duality. It does start on a logical sense first. Principles of understanding, the principles, understanding and knowledge are above the principle of wisdom. Wisdom is a principal thing according to the Bible. But with all our getting of that wisdom, make sure you get understanding. Because you can have a whole mountain of wisdom piled up and still be earthly. Yeah, you can be standing over other people. You can be professing whatever you talking about from the highest mountaintop, you done piled up, right? And other people may look up to you in that regard. But that doesn't mean you're not terrestrial. Matter of fact, you are deceiving yourself if you believe that makes you celestial. You stuck in the spirit of air, but man, we've been given the breath of life through integrity of Christ. We don't need you to play around with anything. If you're not in the spectrum of water, and that's the highest degree, where the highest degree is to understand the law, or all of the knowledge that's opened up according to understanding. And according to understanding the truth is what we're supposed to be seeking, the spirit of truth, which we will get if we have integrity. You can't get to the Father without going through the Son. You can't get inside of a building without going through the doors. When he said he was the doorway to a righteous man, because righteousness is integrity, right? The doorway to integrity, again, is living an honest life. You have to be truthful, and you can't steal. These are the initiations into this life that if you make that your custom, if you operate with that wisdom, you'll stay out of harm's way. And what I mean, I'm not saying you won't face nothing. I'm saying the solution is in your character. It's hard for a person to convict somebody who's truthful, right? It's hard for you to tell me a lie and I feel some type of way about it if I know the truth. No, I'm not mad at nobody calling black people ignorant or so-called black people ignorant because I'm a so-called black man and I know I'm not ignorant. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed, though, that some of my brothers and sisters don't want to live up to the reputation that we know truly exists, right? And they rather perpetuate this ignorant shit because it's financially lucrative, as they see it, right? It gives them energy or currency, right? To move how they want to move, right? But at the end of the day, man, the original energy ain't based off of no earthly material. It's based off the enlightenment. It's based off of the spirit. This is why I say if you reflecting out of the Bible right now and you're not reflecting the spirit of water, then you're stuck probably fighting with Christ. He became a stumbling stone to you because he even said you had to be baptized in spirit and water. He was the spirit. You can't get to the water unless you got the right spirit, and the right spirit would be the spirit of integrity. That's what he represented. Again, the truth has integrity. So if the truth wanted to last, it had to send integrity back into the world because the world was operating with a lack of integrity. Same way it is now. Same way it is now. But the coming back of integrity would be to establish it as it was prescribed, because it was prescribed for you to be able to save yourself before that time came when integrity would come back into this world, right? Aboriginal. A, B, original. Alpha, beta, original. Energy. The original energy. The original energy was a spiritual energy that animated the earthly part of man, right? Again, when we look at life, life bear witness to itself. So if you're speaking according to what you've learned truthfully, you should only be speaking of life. This ain't nothing that I'm saying that nobody shouldn't comprehend. I'm not trying to, wow people with anything, because at the end of the day, I expect a lot of people to be able to recognize life when they see it. Recognize logical instructions for existing, especially if y'all tired of existing as low lives, as niggas and bitches and whores and YNs or whatever else derogative statements that people use toward us these days. If you don't want to exist like that, then let me show you love. Accept my love. Know what love is, right? We didn't practice being ourselves, truthfully, so we know logically who we are, because it's through wisdom do we separate ourselves from the world. It's through wisdom with understanding do we stop being like clamorous women and we show the virtues of a woman that's married to understanding, right? We show that we done been healed from our wounds, and our wounds were our self-inflicted thoughts. We thought we were wise above understanding, and at some point, life had to humble us to bring us back again, right? Just like if life was investing in us. Still talking alpha beta. We were the original stock that life presented, and then that stock had to be refined in the beta. That's when stocks get refined to, again, you see what this stock is presenting, and you can see the potential gains for it if you modify these things, which that brings you to the beta, right? The original energy is the thoughts of man. It ain't the money that's circulating around the world. It ain't the financial institutions that they've established. Because truth be told, knowledge is more valuable than silver and gold, right? If you got an ounce of decency in you, it's worth more than an ounce of silver and gold in the spiritual world. Now, I know people like, well, I don't even live in no spiritual world. I live in this earthly world, and gold and money and all these things, that's value. Says you and all the other people that done lied to you and told you that, right? To make you have to try to obtain something from them that, hey, they shouldn't even have this type of credibility, right? If they've been getting credit for keeping us docile, and this is the way we are rebelling because, hey, man, we know how to read and write, Jack, which means we know how to comprehend and understand, right? Comprehension is understanding, and when you know how to write it, you can help other people understand it. So you see, hip-hop, highly intelligent people who help other people is the Aboriginals' currency. You caught that? Hip-hop, which is a highly intelligent person, a hip person, got to know what's relevant, got to know what's going on, right? Who helps other people, who gets people to hop on board when they present their hip information, all of the intelligence that we need to uplift a nation, right? These people have currency. Yeah, their currency is decency, right? See, that energy can be exchanged, and that energy can change and make modifications to make our stock better. To put our stock at its peak performance. And I ain't talking about for nobody else to bet on us or nobody to invest in us, but for y'all to invest in life, y'all gonna have to invest in the energy source that's bringing true light. And true light is based on integrity. You can't be a child of God if you ain't got no integrity. How you in the truth? All right. Your enlightenment is actually darkness as you deceive yourself as well as the others that tend to look at you as a beacon of hope. Well, our blessed hope was the integrity that was sent for us to recognize what we had inside, to stop looking toward the outside world and be able to actually recognize who we are inside. Mind our business as we extract the valuables from ourselves because we become resourceful. We become resourceful just as we, again, recognize ourselves, right? As I'm listening to myself, my bad, I just cut myself on just to make sure I was being heard. Shout out Jonathan, bro. I saw you thumb me up, you know what I'm saying? Working man that work hard. A lot of respect. I love the integrity that you represent as well. As I'm shouting out different people, you know. Like I say, man, we are the original energy source. The credibility that we don't get is what the truth is going to bring to us. You can't deny that nobody taught us this. Nobody taught us to behave or think like this. This is the instructions that life gave us. And life planted us for us to be able to grow up. We not on a to and fro lineage plane, you know, horizontally running back and forth from this earthly matter to that earthly matter. That's not how we operate. We're designed to elevate on the vertical axis. Simple mathematics, right? We're designed to mature into our why. Just like the only begotten son is the way a man thinks, and a man thinks on a vertical plane when the woman is pertaining to her earthly sensational self. And that's no knock to the woman, because she has to be a caregiver. The earth has to consider all of the people on the earth. So it has to be able to regulate itself a certain way. It has to have different moods and swings and periods to where it's considering those that dwell within it, right? But the sun itself is going to release what it released because it's necessary. The earth has a protective covering to shield itself just enough to be able to absorb what it needs to absorb and not be burnt up or obliterated, right? In the exchange of dealing with that masculine energy, right? And when we say we the only begotten son as a nation of people, we were the only ones given the principles of understanding. We were the only ones privy to the type of integrity it needs to raise yourself up from this low life state and become one again with the knowledge that you learn to hate. Because you learn to hate the truth, right? The truth was embarrassing, right? People made you feel small. So in comparison, you wanted to measure yourself up against them when that ain't how life works. We don't measure ourselves up against other people. We measure ourselves against ourselves. The only way you grow is if you keep observing yourself and the stages in which you're privy to see yourself and know how to make corrections, right? Back to that AB original, right? This aboriginal people, this aboriginal energy. To be original, you have to be something that nobody else can produce. Again, nobody taught us to think like this. This type of enlightenment is due to the circumstances in which we had to face through life, and life purposely did that to extract something out of us that it purposely put in us, that it couldn't get out of nobody else because it didn't put it in nobody else, right? The fruits of this tree is decency. Through integrity, the truth is decent. That's the order, right? You have to be decent before you try to establish a decent standard for everybody else, right? You got to be mature in order for you to present maturity to other people as standard. You have to apparently be a parent to guide children, because children just give children guidance. They don't give them direction. A child can guide another child into mischief. But direction is with a purpose. When I tell you a direction to go, take a left, make a right. I'm trying to get you to a certain destination, and that destination is heaven. Heaven is understanding, y'all. It was established with understanding. So if you're trying to get to understanding, you gotta be willing to sacrifice what you believe egotistically in your wisdom and see what life is instructing you to do logically. And we're told to put logic over vain emotions. Like my people say down here in Baton Rouge, the Morgan brothers, Tim and Reggie, let it slide. Yeah, stop letting intense drama escalate, right? That means get out your feelings, right? And how do we get out of our feelings? We start identifying what's vain about the way we feel that won't change nothing, and stop giving energy to these things because it's wasteful. It's not resourceful. It's a hindrance. And as we're trying to provide stability for ourselves, we got to get rid of all our instabilities. And an emotional man is unstable in all his ways. As a group of people, if we're a nation that represents the only male If we're not acting like ourselves, then we're acting like women, which means we're deep in our feelings like everybody else. But as you see, this ain't about our feelings. This is about us being a group of people who are able to guide themselves. Because apparently we have the understanding that the parent has to guide the children. And as our children are in desperate need of guidance, we can only go out here and tell them the truth. I ain't trying to shine nothing up for them. I ain't trying to dress nothing up for them. I'm just trying to address things for them that need some polishing, which is our minds. We need to look at the way we examine life and how we measure things, because as other people has given us their measuring system, it's more suitable for a low life than it is for a man of high regard. And a man of high regard has taken the higher ways and elevated out of his low life natures, and integrity has brought him to a place to where he's no longer carnally driven. He don't operate off ego. He don't move off impulse. He's directed. He's guided. He's delivered from all of that with his integrity. Proverbs 11 and read all the way down. If you don't see that the just is righteous and righteousness is integrity and integrity is how we must walk, then what else can I tell you? You're not reading the scriptures with integrity. Right? If you didn't see that his righteousness was an everlasting righteousness and understood that that was his integrity, which is an everlasting integrity, this is why he's going to be honored again when this nation of people come together, because they have to come together in the spirit of truth with integrity. You can't get to the Father unless you with integrity. Yeah. You can't see justice unless you have true judgment. You can't judge yourself according to the way you feel. You got to judge yourself according to the principles of understanding. And as we understand, life has order. And if you're not trying to produce decency, you out of order. And to be out of order right now, you might want to watch your steps, because right now, man, it seems that somebody's stepping down clearly with understanding of knowledge. Clearly understanding that life is logical instructions for existing, and we exist on a higher plane. My thoughts are higher than your thoughts. This is why I say logic over vain emotions, because fuck how you feel, because I've practiced this wisdom, and this is what I have to offer truthfully to the kids. This is what I tell the adults who don't know what it is, because I ain't playing no games. It's serious right now. And to be serious is to be truthful. And truthful right now may hurt your feelings, but I'm not worried about your feelings, because they could just be vain emotions. And we done been taught to put logic over vain emotions. Right. And I'm advising you to let it slide. Because, man, these type of conversations can get intense, right? And we don't need nobody wanting to come start with all that drama, because drama is, again, acting. And we don't need you to act like you ready to be intense. We need you to be able to be intense in your mind, because the tension that we putting on everybody else's spine is coming from our head. Because we the head. That means we sitting on everybody else's information, right? Whatever they think they produce is only wisdom. And we're the principle of understanding, which, hey, y'all gotta come to agreements with understanding if you wise, man. If you don't, it's to your deceit, man. Like I say, man, I'm just talking, man. But like I said, I'm not just talking, man. This is what we do. We live life according to the purpose that we know that we have. And truth be told, man, integrity is good as gold. Integrity gonna produce decency. And I told you, if you got an ounce of decency, it's more valuable than silver and gold. This just been a decent man taking out some time to give y'all a decent measure. For those of y'all who understand what decency is, hey, Let's come together, y'all. Word is bond with integrity, so we can build up our nation and make people respect the man that we became, right? The husband man that we represent, you see? Because this enlightenment is the husband, right? We're the ones that going to have to marry it. And then once we embody the husband, we become that bridegroom that married the husband, and everybody else got to marry if they want life everlasting, which is us becoming Christ through integrity, embodying the whole body, Christ, with integrity. And as I say that, one man,